You're watching ABC's Wide World of Sports.
Sit down and strap in. Indy cars are built for all-out speed, and super speedways are built to push them to the limit. The IndyCar Series comes to Michigan to do what it does best. Barrel down the straightaway at over 220 miles an hour. Only one thing matters: speed. It's go fast or go home. Like a runaway freight train inches from disaster. Better than any thrill ride, it's a roller coaster filled with danger where holding on is simply not enough. Last year, Alex Barron went on his own ride, a spin-and-win sensation in a photo finish with Sam Hornish Jr. Don't blink, you might miss the finish. We're at T-minus 7 races from the championship.
I lead for speed. Speed, 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 speed.
They're inches away at 214 miles an hour.
I don't know how this is going to work.
They run 3 wide into 3. Buddy Rice wins the Indianapolis 500. It's a beautiful day in the Irish Hills of southern Michigan. Fans of the IndyCar Series are moving toward their seats now for what is without a doubt the best head-to-head racing of the year. And we welcome you now to our Firestone pre-race show. Well, this is round 10 of 16 in the IRL IndyCar Series. The Indy 400 at Michigan. 200 laps, fast and furious, and side by side. Well, our pit crew is all set to go, and we start now on the top stories with Jerry Punch.
Thanks, Paul. You know, after 9 events on the IndyCar Tour, today's pole sitter Tony Kanaan is also our points leader with a slim 64-point margin over Indy 500 winner Buddy Rice. Now, both drivers know here at Michigan you need horsepower, but you also need a little help in the drafting on the high banks. In just a moment, we'll ask them both to share with us their race day strategy. Todd?
Doc, coming into this season, many thought Team Penske would be the dominant team with Sam Hornish Jr. and Helio Castroneves, but 9 races in, only 1 victory, and that one came at the very first stop, Homestead, Florida, where Sam Hornish Jr. got the victory. Also in other news, Helio Castroneves qualified with a 2:14.9. The team wasn't sure about the engine. They swapped it out, so Helio will now be starting 20th. Jamie?
Well, Todd, the great thing about Michigan, there's always a different driver. 22 different winners. Actually, winners, I should say, out of 24 races here at Michigan. Over 400 miles. It's going to be a long day. There's 17 drivers in the field that have not won a race yet this season. One of those drivers is Alex Barron, who won here last year. We'll get up close and personal with Alex later in the show. But first, let's head up to Paul and Scott.
You know, the race here at Michigan always produces some fairly amazing numbers, and based on those right there, there will be a lead change every 7 laps, and that's only at the start-finish line. It doesn't include those passes in the corners. Hi, I'm Paul Page with Scott Goodyear. You know, I look so forward to this race every year. I anticipate it with excitement and also a little bit of apprehension. It's blindingly fast, and it can be a little scary.
Paul, I love this racetrack. You're right. It's fast, it's wide, it's 400 miles of wheel-to-wheel racing at an average speed of 215 miles an hour. Look at practice here from a couple of days ago. We have more passing in practice than some series do actually their whole entire race. You know, when you come to Michigan, you expect to get scared just a little bit simply because the thrill, the sheer speed that the cars go, the side-by-side racing in the turns, and the art of high-speed drafting. You know, this great race course is a love for all the drivers here. And I have to tell you, Jack, you know, the drivers come here and they say it's a complete difference from Milwaukee last week, the Milwaukee Mile. 2 miles here, a very fast racetrack, no room for error.
Well, sure, Scott, they're different tracks, but there is one constant, and that's this battle for the championship between Tony Kanaan and Buddy Rice. And it's been ultra competitive. Every athlete, every coach I've talked to said it's easier to be the guy in second place than the guy chasing the leader. That's the case here today, and I think one of the key things that we've noticed this week is it's a psych job going on by the crews as well. They're making snide comments. They're being, well, a few more stares. I think when you combine that with the competitive nature of this racetrack, I think that's why I'm going to love this race.
Well, the man that Buddy Rice is now chasing in this championship, Tony Kanaan, TK they call him, he's the points leader. Here's Jerry Punch.
Well, Paul, with the series leading 3 wins and 474 laps led, it's no surprise Brazilian Tony Kanaan sits atop the series standings, 64 points ahead of Buddy Rice and 17 in front of his teammate Dan Weldon back in third. And Tony is also our pole sitter today. And Tony, here on the high banks at Michigan, you have to not only go fast, but you got to go far, 400 miles. How do you gauge when to pace and when to press?
Well, I mean, you're going to have to press at the end of the race, like 35 laps to go, but have to pace for the other laps, just saving the equipment. It's a long race. I think it's going to be all about saving fuel and good stops.
How much does the big picture, the chase for the championship, impact your strategy today?
Well, I mean, I'm looking for a win. I think the best way to win a championship, it's definitely try to win more races. But I would say I'm not concerned about the championship at all right now. I'm trying to finish as much race as I can, and then we can count that in Texas at the end of the year.
You're not going to let that rookie beside you, Matsura, lead the first lap, are you?
No. I don't think it's going to happen, but you never know.
Oh, teammates all the way, says Dan Weldon.
Me.
All right, let's check in with Todd.
All right, thank you, Dr. Punch, here with Helio Castroneves and his co-driver, Ali, today. You would have been in the front row. You're in 20th, but I know you. You're going to love going through this pack, aren't you?
It's going to be one of those fun races, 400 miles, a lot of laps. You just have to be cool, patient, and be there in the end. So, man, it'll be, I'll be testing my skills today.
Your last win came in 03, Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Would you say you're due?
Well, I guess yes, but we're not thinking about right now. Actually, I'm thinking about to hopefully pass a lot of cars and be there in the end. Come on, guys. Number 3 today, huh?
Woo! A very confident Helio Castroneves and Ali. Let's send it over to Jamie Little.
Scott Dixon has rallied back from an injury last weekend to his thumb and his ankle. And what's more surprising is you're starting third, the best start all season. But I have to ask you, we all know how important the hands are during a race. What have you done to prepare for this 400 miles?
I think it's been a little hard pushed, definitely with time and trying to get casts and stuff made, which you typically try to do, which are made out of carbon. But for this weekend, we've had to just tape it, and we've had a lot of help from the guy at Panther that's been able to at least tape it up for us. So it shouldn't be too bad. We don't use the thumb too much, just buttons and stuff. But hopefully it holds together for this weekend, and I don't have to get surgery.
Well, this is a little added incentive here. Wheaties, the breakfast of champions. How is that? The champion is on here, defending champion Scott Dixon. What is that like to look at your face on there?
It's pretty cool. I didn't even make the Wheaties edition in New Zealand, but I do over here. So that's pretty cool, and it's great for the team and good for the IRL. First IRL person to be on the Wheaties box, and hopefully there's many more to come.
Well, Scott Dixon has a big smile on his face. Perhaps his luck can turn around today. Guys?
The Aucklander with the Breakfast of Champions. Don't forget tonight's primetime lineup, America's Funniest Home Videos, Extreme Makeover Home Edition, and The Days. And when we come back, a closer look at Buddy Rice, the Indy 500 champion. He is prepared for the role he's playing all of his life. We welcome you back to Michigan International Speedway, moving closer and closer to the start of the Michigan Indy 400. The pulse begins to quicken, especially for the drivers. There's last week's winner, Dario Franchitti, and Dan Weldon, his teammate, his wife, Ashley Judd, out in the pits ready to cheer her husband on. And let's consider that battle between Tony Kanaan and Buddy Rice. Well, TK has more experience here at Michigan, including his first major open wheel win. But Rice has the power of the Indy 500 win behind him and a dazzling run to second place in the last laps of the race here 2 years ago. Buddy Rice, the son of a drag racer who decided to add turns to his repertoire. Here's Jack Arute.
I remember him going with me to Beeline drag strip and sitting in the back of the truck and in the playpen, and he used to put on my mask and my breathers and my gloves in the back of the truck.
Growing up, when I was racing BMX bikes, and I went and did a race by myself with my mom, and he wasn't there, and he went with his buddies and went drag racing. He didn't like that. He told my mom that night that he was selling everything.
You see, Big Bud wanted to race with his son, and he did, but it was soon apparent that Little Bud was destined for the big time. He tore through the go-karting ranks and on to Formula Fords and then Toyota Atlantics, where he won the championship in 2002. And then in 2002, Eddie Cheever came calling, and a new breed of race car driver was unleashed on the IRL.
Buddy Rice makes the pass for second. Will it be 1-2 for Team Cheever? Buddy Rice in his first Indy Racing League start is second.
But by the end of the 2003 season, the Cheever-Rice marriage on the rocks. Buddy Rice found himself unemployed, but then got a reprieve.
We've got a problem. Kenny Brack in turn number 3. It looks like Schechter and Brack. It's a very hard hit in turn number 3.
That crash left Kenny Brack with serious injuries, and his Rahal team looking for a fill-in driver. Enter one Buddy Rice.
Nobody likes to take advantage of those kinds of situations, but they happen. His attitude working with the team was fantastic. He just wanted to race.
Rice rewarded Rahal and his partner David Letterman with their first career IRL pole in the season opener in Miami. Then it was 3 top 10 finishes and off to Indianapolis, where Buddy Rice shouted to the world, "I'm for real."
If he keeps that up, he's got the pole. And he is on the pole.
Buddy Rice will nearly sprint the wall the inside. Buddy Rice from Phoenix, Arizona wins from the pole position.
You always dream of when you're growing up, like you want to be a race car driver, or a pro athlete, or a rock star. And so I think it sometimes makes it hard to take it all in when you actually achieve the goals that you've always dreamed of trying to do.
After Indy, Rice squeezed out a win over his teammate Vitor Meira on the 4th of July in Kansas by a distance shorter than the fuse on most firecrackers. He's second in the IndyCar Series points chase to Tony Kanaan, but Kanaan's lead is well within Rice's sights. Not bad for a kid who used to wear his dad's drag racing gear.
All right, here with Buddy Rice. Buddy, this track has been very, very good to you. 2 years ago, you finished second. Is it safe to say this track suits your driving style?
Yeah, I mean, I made my debut here in 2002 and had an excellent run with, at the time, my teammate Thomas Schechter. So, it's a fast track. It's a chess match. You're going to have to be there for the end, and it's going to be a little bit of a wait-and-see type deal, see how everyone shakes out here in the first half.
You're all about momentum right now. Your team seems to have it. Can you carry it through today?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, both Vitor and I are strong right now. The Honda G-Force combination is going to work good, and hopefully when it's all said and done, the Pioneer Argent car will be up front.
Good luck. Be safe.
Thanks.
Let's check in with Jamie.
Alex Barron has dreamed of being a race car driver his entire life. His best memory came right here in Michigan last year when he won his second IRL race. We'll take a look at his rise from shifter kart racing to the IRL IndyCar Series when we return. Welcome back to the Firestone Free Race Show. People still talk about Alex Barron's spin here last year and how he edged out Sam Hornish Jr. to take the win. Alex has been committed to racing his whole life, and it all started with a supportive family and a desire to win.
Alex Barron off of turn number 4. Here comes the pride of San Diego, Alex Barron, a winner for the first time in his Indy racing career.
When he was young, people would ask him what he wanted to be when he grew up, when he was really young, and he said he was going to be a race car driver. And I think most of us just kind of rolled our eyes like, that's a real dream.
I think that's what life's all about, is having dreams, and I knew that was something I was very passionate about.
He definitely had a need for speed.
First time I got in a kart, I was just so excited and overwhelmed.
Within 6 months, I knew that he was capable of winning championships. So I devoted all my time to escalating him as quick as I could.
Now an IRL mainstay with 2 wins to his credit, Alex provided one of the Indy Racing League's most memorable moments here last year.
Schechter gets by Barron and they touch. Alex Barron, is he going to save it? He gets sideways, spinning backwards down the straightaway. How did he keep it off the wall?
At that point, I knew I had the car to win the race. I was pretty upset.
Setting up for a photo finish here at Michigan International Speedway. Barron on the outside. He's going to edge just in front of Sam Hornish Jr. Alex Barron, he has got the spin and win at Michigan.
That was a real breakthrough for my career.
Away from the track, Alex satisfies his need for speed with dune buggies in the Arizona desert and go-karts with his twin daughters, Ashley and Carrie. It's a chance for Alex to show his lighter side.
He's funny. He does the Billy Bob teeth and everything.
There is definitely a side that you don't see. Absolutely.
I'm on my teeth.
Today, as the defending race champion, Alex hopes the only side his competition sees is his backside.
Thanks, Jamie. So he's one of today's questions. Can he do it again? That concludes our Firestone pre-race show as we move closer and closer to the race. There are many guys here today with much to prove in 400 miles. Alex Barron, of course, as the defending champion. Helio Castroneves starts from the back and can't afford to stay there. Buddy Rice, the long-distance master, the Indy winner. And Tony Kanaan, who needs to protect his points lead, but of course, he wants to win. Oh, it couldn't be a more magnificent day for the Michigan Indy 400. Michigan International Speedway. The engines have started. The field is rolling, and here is the way they line up.
Tony Kanaan, car number 11. Kosuke Matsuda, car number 55. Scott Dixon, car number 1. Sam Hornish Jr., car number 6. Vito Almeida, car number 17. Buddy Rice, car number 15. Townsend Bell, car number 2.
Dan Weldon, car number 26.
Brian Herta, number 7.
Adrian Fernandez, car number 5.
Dario Franchitti, car number 27.
Darryl Manning, car number 10.
Thomas Scheckter, car number 4.
Alex Barron, car number 51.
Ed Carpenter, car number 52. AJ Fortesport, car number 14.
Mark Taylor, car number 13. Scott Sharp, car number 8.
Jacques Lazier, car 20. Helio Castroneves, car number 3. Felipe Giafoni, car number 24. Tora Takagi, car number 12.
And take a look at this. Helio Castroneves starting way in the back of the field because of that engine change. The field works up through turn 3.
Back it up 17, back it up 17.
Formed at the front, here's the race analysis.
Most important thing, Paul, there, look at lap 180 to lap 200. That's where you'll find out about who your winner will be. No start this time by, Paul.
Yeah, they called to start off while they were still way up in turn 3 and 4, and race control just didn't like the alignment.
Paul, let me give you who I think is going to win this race. I'm going with Kosuke Matsuda, number 55. He starts on the front row. He's fearless, Scott, and this place breeds first-time winners.
Well, it certainly does, Jack. I was a first-time winner myself, but you know something? Toyota has come here. They have been strong since they've unloaded off the trailer. I'm going to go for a Toyota-powered car this weekend. I'm looking at somebody from Penske, probably Helio Castroneves.
Yeah, now let's take a look at this track here. It's a historical favorite of most open-wheel fans.
Great racetrack, Paul. 2-mile length. It's a D-shaped oval. Long straightaways. Great area for passing. 75 feet wide in the turns. That 18-degree banking allows for 3 or 4 wide going through the turns. A great place to go racing.
One of our many onboard cameras with Scott Sharp. There's Thomas Scheckter. Keep an eye on him today. He can drive it anywhere. Darren Manning. This is Dario Franchitti. Helmet can. Winner a week ago. Townsend Bell with a great starting position. And Scott Dixon. Pace comes up, watching for the green flag. And they go yellow again. No start again.
Well, for the second time in a row, Kosuke Matsuda, remember, it's his first time on the front row, guys, and he's just really new at this. There's a start zone down there in turns 3 and 4. Wait for the leader to start. Once he accelerates, the outside pole man, Kosuke, is supposed to accelerate. Did not that time. Almost got hit from the back, almost got run over. Brian Barnhart certainly is not going to allow that to happen too many more times because it will cause an accident. Watch Kosuke right there up on the top left-hand side. In the blue and orange car, not on the gas. Watch right now, the lower right-hand turn. Dixon's pulling out, and he pulls out just as he gets to the line. He's already improved his position, but Kosuke was the one that was slow on the start, so no penalty for Dixon, but Brian Barnhart's only going to give these guys about one more chance. As per the rules, if it doesn't work this time by, the front row can go to the rear of the pack.
Brian Barnhart, the senior official of the IRL, runs race control, runs the race, and you can bet they have been on the phone letting Kosuke know what he needs to do this time around. They look at the green flag, possibly again. And they get it this time. Here we go, 400 miles at Michigan. Already they go 4 wide in the first corner, resolve it out to 3. Tony Kanaan pulls to the front. Koski finds himself in a battle. And here is Helio Castroneves moving from the back of the field. Back up at the front. That's Sam Hornish that's dropped into third place. And the first lap now complete. Kanan, Matsura, then Hornish Jr., and then Dan Weldon who came forward. Kanan's now led 7 out of 10 races this year. And there's Vitor Meira.
Well, finally, Paul, we had a driver that didn't lie to us during the pre-race show. The pole sitter, Tony Kanaan, he said he wasn't going to let the rookie lead, and he proved to be correct.
Yeah, but there was some risk in that, wasn't there, Scott?
Well, certainly you want to make sure you get a clean start. Remember, the tire pressures and the temperatures are not up on these tires. These guys need to settle into a pace. The Vice President of Operations, Brian Barnhart, said in the morning meeting, guys, you got a long way to ride here today. Let's get 180 laps into the books and go racing for the last 20.
At Michigan International Speedway, the Michigan Indy 400 is now 3 laps old. And there's battling up and down the field. Now, most of the teams will tell their driver, take it easy for a while, let the thing sort out. It's a pretty hard thing for a driver to do. On board, Thomas Scheckter. Scheckter is currently 10th.
That's Brian Herta looking to the low side, right behind them. 2 different lines going into the turn. Castroneves is that orange and white car sliding in there.
Just gets up alongside Darren Manning. Castroneves drops in behind Herta.
Helio Castroneves started in the back of the pack, guys, and already has moved into 12th position. He told us he was going to come to the front, and as he goes by that black and yellow car, Brian Herta, he's doing it.
And I would think he really not only wants, but needs to do it early on. You really don't want to get caught up mid-pack.
Well, this is the best time to pass, Paul, on a start or a restart. When all the cars are bunched together, you have an opportunity to pass the cars. When they string out, it's harder work for you in front of you.
Back at the front of field, the green and white number 11, that's Tony Kanaan. That number 6 is Sam Hornish Jr. And that's Dan Weldon, the red and white car, sitting up on the top. He was started in 8th position, now's up to 4th.
Yeah, but look at the car on the high side of the left of your screen. There comes Buddy Rice. He and Dan Weldon have locked horns before, and now Weldon's the meat in a Hornish-Rice sandwich.
Yeah, but the two of them, well, I was going to say weren't together for long, but they continue to run 3 wide. And now Buddy Rice has some help from his teammate in that blue and white car. That's Vitor Meira, number 17. Look how close. Oh.
Now, we talked about a lot of racing room in these turns, over 70 feet of racing room, but there's all the pavement lines that go longitudinally along there, and if your tires cross over it, certainly makes the car move. You got to give the guy beside you a little bit more room.
But, Scott, if you look at that high side, I would think Buddy Rice has got a distinct advantage because he has his teammate, Vitor Meira, in the blue and white car right behind him.
So at the front of the field, it's Tony Kanaan, the most wins this season. Is this going to be another one for him? And how about Roger Penske and his team? There's a man with a need for speed. You ride with last week's winner. Dario Franchitti, his teammate Brian Herta is just ahead of him.
The Firestone telemetry, look at the speed that we're seeing right now. 217 miles an hour, slows down a little bit mid-turn, not lifting off the throttle, over 3 Gs, and you see the throttle right now, 100%. These guys don't lift around this racetrack, Paul.
Thomas Scheckter is having a good run. He is up to 4th place now. You're on board with him. Sam Hornish just ahead.
And Scott, if you notice when we ride with with Thomas Scheckter here, he's got a higher line than a lot of the drivers. And I asked him about that last night. He said the car feels comfortable there, and he said he's able to maybe get the car to stick a little better.
Well, the key thing around this racetrack, Jack, is that everybody hugs the low side. They want the drivers to go around the high side. Watch this white line here on the left-hand side as we're going. Hornish is just leaving him enough room just to get him through.
They're 2 masters, and they can both place their car any way they want it. Now, here's a fight for second. Buddy Rice and Koski Matsura. Buddy goes to second.
Can we bring up the theme song from Jaws? Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, well, you'd be playing the oboes the entire afternoon if you did that. So Buddy Rice comes up to second place behind Tony Kanaan. Buddy, the number 15 car. Race is averaging after 15 laps 212.7 miles an hour. Remember Scott Dixon. Scott started in third place, but he's been falling through the field and is now down in 13th place, along with his teammate Darren Manning, who currently sits in 12th.
Now remember, Dixon's got that injured right wrist. Maybe he's just trying to find a pace to make himself comfortable throughout the day. We'll find out after this event whether he needs surgery on that wrist. I can only tell you, when you're injured and you drive a race car at the speeds and be tossed around inside the cockpit like you are at this race course, it's not an easy job.
Jamie Little, what's going on with Dixon?
Well, Scott was just talking about his hand. Scott's saying right now his hand is feeling fine. He's not happy with his car. He said there's too much understeer and he can't turn the car. He's gone from third back to 13th.
His owner, Chip Ganassi, who owns not only Dixon's championship car, but the one of Darren Manning as well.
You may wonder how difficult is it to drive one of these race cars when you have an injury down in your thumb and your wrist. Well, Scott, they tell me that you feel most of the drive in an Indy car through the steering wheel. In a stock car, you tend to feel it more in the seat. So I would think that injury is going to get exacerbated today.
Well, you know, the interesting story about Ganassi's racing also is they had to pull everybody they possibly could from the Nextel Cup team, the Grand Am team, just to go back and repair those cars that they crashed last week at Milwaukee. Look at the difference a year makes with his team. All the 2003, 2004 stats, not a successful year for Scott Dixon so far.
Yeah, but that can be spelled Honda. Honda, the dominant engine. Dixon and Company with a Toyota.
Back at the front of the field, the green and white number 11 is Tony Kanaan. Buddy Rice, number 15, right behind him. And then the 55, Kotsky Matsura, Thomas Schechter, that bright yellow car with a move to the front. And the 6, of course, is Sam Hornish driving for Roger Penske. They've actually surprised me a little bit, Scott. They've, as we look at the 17 car of Vitor Mira, they aren't getting up fighting with one another the way I would expect it early. Does that mean they're actually listening to their owners?
Well, you know, I think that they all are excited, as you always are as a driver on a start. You want to get out there and pass people. But right now, they're trying to settle into that pace. Remember, fuel mileage is a key concern here. Thomas Schechter has been running strong. I talked to those guys this morning. They said, you know something? We feel we have a car with the Chevrolet updates we have to maybe show very well here in the hometown for Chevrolet. We think will be a factor there at the end of the day.
Thomas Schechter is a fairly amazing athlete.
Oh, Paul, you know, Lance Armstrong, when he won his 6th Tour de France, they measured his heart rate, and it was at 32 beats a minute at rest. Visited with Thomas Schechter last night, and he was working out on his bicycle, a stationary one. He said, I've got my resting heartbeat down to 42 beats a minute. I think both of those are subhuman.
And your choice for the win of this racetrack, 55, Matsura, has dropped now to 6th place. Let's go down to Jerry Punch.
Guys, let me show you. This is the brace they made. It's a carbon fiber Kevlar brace they made for Scott Dixon's fractured thumb. And he was trying to wear it in practice, but the problem was, because you see he can't move your thumb, he couldn't grip the steering wheel. So you take this brace off, and they put some tape around his thumb. And what he has is a fracture at the base of his thumb, where the ligament, the ulnar collateral ligament, attaches. You see it in snow skiing, you see it in wide receivers in football, and this thumb will basically bend all the way back, so he has it taped to be able to grip the steering wheel. The doctors have told him, if you don't hit anything and this tape holds, you may be able to avoid surgery and not have it operated on at all on Tuesday. Guys?
Well, Doc, the leader is still Tony Kanaan. He has led right from the pole in a race that he has said it was not necessary for him to either lead or win. He wants more to protect his position in the points championship. There's Rice in 2nd, Schechter in 3rd, but right now, Kanaan, TK at the front of the top, is the big wheel. Thomas Schechter, Panther Racing, now has moved into 2nd place behind Tony Kanaan. Rice and Sam Hornish are battling for 3rd place with Vitor Mira climbing in there every now and then.
And Vitor getting a nice run off of Rice's draft just in front of him. Hornish probably thinking the better of it right now, sitting back there, possibly getting some better fuel mileage. That's probably what's in his mind. Now you see everybody going down to low side, going down the backstrip. We talked about that white line throughout one of the passes earlier on. That white line is out of bounds. Brian Barnhart, the Vice President of Operations, in the morning meeting said to the guys, just pretend that there's grass down there below that. You cannot drive on it. Absolutely no passing underneath the white line or you will be penalized.
On board with Thomas Scheckter now.
But he's right behind you. Still right behind you.
Panther Racing celebrating their 100th IndyCar start today.
Paul, if you think that the voice has changed in terms of spotters for this team, you're correct. Remember, it used to be the former IndyCar driver by the name of Pancho Carter. Well, he's been released from the team. It's another IndyCar driver now that is a former winner here. That's John Paul. He does a little bit different spotting. You notice he makes everybody feel a little comfortable, play by play.
Yep, looking to the outside. Okay. He's behind you now. You got to lift off a little. He's lost 3 lengths. He's lost. He's back there 3-4 lengths.
John Paul Jr., the winner in a great last turn battle with Rick Mears in '83, picked up his first win in the big leagues of the open wheel of the kart series then. Jamie Little.
Guys, Thomas Scheckter started 13th. He's moved up to 2nd. I asked Doug Bowles yesterday. He said, we got a new engine. It has about 10 horsepower. I know that's not a whole lot, but the mental aspect on Scheckter, he said, man, I love this car. I'm having fun, and I'm going to go out there and turn her on.
You got a good glimpse there of the engineers working hard on the telemetry with that Chevrolet power plant. Mira and Sam Hornish. Mira is 17, Hornish is 6.
Outside. Still outside. Outside.
Koski Matsura is still hanging on at the front in 6th place. That's the lead all right together there. This is the battle.
Koski coming
getting
down,
a little into the no man's
putting his
land.
tires down underneath the white line, generally signaling that you're going to pit this time, allowing the guys below to know that you are actually coming in.
Exactly what the indicator was. You would think, though, this is a little bit earlier. Look at him block the brakes as he tries to get it down to the speed limit.
It's lap 34, Paul. I've estimated 35 to 40 on fuel mileage. It seems to be hitting on.
Let's go to Todd Harris.
Well, Koski Matsura, you guys pointed out, he had a couple first very fast laps. The real key, though, down on pit row right now is Elio Castroneves. They had to bring him in a little bit earlier than they planned because he's passed so many people. He's going to get 4 new tires, fuel, of course, and then a half turn on that front wing, guys.
11.4 seconds for Koski Matsura on his stop. And now under green. Here comes everybody else. Voigt the 4th is in and out. Castroneves and Vitor Mira in on the same lap. So it's Sam Hornish. Todd Harris.
Well, Hornish came in the exact same time as Elio Castroneves. Initially, they wanted to bring Elio in at 34 laps and leave Sam out till 38. But he gets out both very quickly, and both the Marlboro Penske drivers go out together.
Great moment for the teams to shine. So far, we've been clean all the way. As the remainder of the field now working their way in. There's Felipe Giafoni coming out. Thomas Scheckter, the bright yellow car, in trouble going in. Oh, and you got a man pinned down in the left front.
Well, that happened because his left rear actually hit the car that was in the pit box just ahead of him.
Jamie Little.
Guys, Thomas Scheckter was coming in. They weren't going to make any changes. They were going to get fuel and tires right as he started to come in. Toward Takagi, pulled out, bumped him. They hit his nose. Now they've got all kinds of front wing damage.
Going to have to change the nose wing on that car. And it looks like the vent man took a pretty good hit.
Now these guys rehearse these changes all throughout the day in case anything happens. That's a one-piece nose going on there, but this is bad for the whole Panther team because they're certainly losing laps under the green condition.
Tony Kanaan was the leader.
Points leader in pole sitter Tony Kanaan just told Kim Green, don't change a thing. I love the car. We're going to be good on the fuel. The car's running flawlessly. Kanaan brings it to a stop. And the 7-11 team for Andretti Green will slap 4 fresh Firestones on. Let's listen to Tony Lee.
Yellow. This is a caution for debris as Tony Kanaan roars out of the pits. And in fact, the entire field has stopped. So they've all made at least one stop. And now the caution comes out. Boy, they would have liked that just a little bit earlier. This is down in the Schechter pit. Medical team is there. And this is what happened from his camera.
Watch this. As you saw him pulling into there, you saw the car coming out of the pit box just preceding him. The team before has to know where their neighbors are. They have to know where your teammates are coming in there.
That is so frightening.
Tor Takagi actually started to come out and hit his right front tire. The pit man on Tor Takagi team should not release him. He should certainly know that the Panther car is coming in and he sees the car coming down pit lane. That's an error on that team.
Scott, I've talked to a lot of the crew chiefs throughout the course of the last couple of weeks as we see one of the crew members being loaded onto the back brace. We'll get an update on that.
Well, Thomas Schechter and Tora Takagi both back rolling on the racetrack. We're going to get an update identifying the crew member involved in that and also his condition just as quickly as we can. And we'll be back with more from Michigan after this message and a word from our ABC station.
Welcome back to Michigan International Speedway. A little bit of chaos going on down here in the pits. I'm with Doug Bowles. What happened from your perspective just when you guys had some luck going?
Yeah, I think we had a great car. The Pennzoil car was working great. I don't know. These are close quarters here in the pits, and it looked to me like the 12 car's crew chief just sent the 12 car. I don't think it was Tor's fault, but I think his crew chief needs to watch what he's doing. It's clearly their fault. Ran into Thomas, who was in front of him when he let him out. So I don't know what else you do other than we just get the car going. We're lap down. We still think we have a chance of winning this thing.
You had damage to the car, but you also had a crewman down. What was his name?
His name was Steve Namasnack. We call him Snack. With some kind of leg injury. We don't know what yet. But again, if crew chief on the 12 car had been paying attention, we wouldn't be here right now.
Well, guys, the good news, number 4 car is back out on the track.
So we will keep track and hopefully get a medical update on Snack. Yellow flag still flies here. You know, the key position in any pit stop is really the right front man. And championship chief mechanic Kevin Blanche knows that position very well.
As a right front tire changer, once your job is done changing the tire, then it's your job to decide when to send the car. And with Scott Goodyear and Sam Hornish both, I would hold them. Once the tires were done, I would point. That was my signal to him. The tires were done. It was okay for him to put the car in gear. So as you're pointing at him and you're watching the fueler and the vent guy, the fueler's the first guy to get ready to pull out. He'll almost cock himself. And when he cocks himself and he starts to come back, at that point, I would wave the driver out because there's a bit of delay from me waving to him reacting coming off the clutch. So I think what you've seen a lot of times happen lately is, and this little bit of anticipation, maybe it's a little bit too quick, or maybe the guy has got behind a little bit on his tire change and he's had to come up and do a wing, and by that point he thinks he's behind a little bit, and he is anticipating that when I do get caught up, it's going to be time to leave. If you cost yourself 30 seconds on a pit stop, you can never make that up in a race. So if you have a bit of problem, you're better off to hold the guy for a second or two. You can make that up on the next stop, or he can make that up on the track.
You know, Jackaroo, we've seen just a little too much of that lately. Guys waving people out without really looking up.
Those right front guys don't care anymore about the oncoming traffic. You heard Doug Bowles allude to that. Why? Because they feel like they have to pass cars during pit stops because it's so competitive now out on the racetrack.
Kevin Blanche, by the way, who used to chief for you, Scott Goodyear. You had 2 wins at this racetrack. And also, of course, for Sam Hornish during his championships, now an official with the IRL. So they got somebody that really knows what's going on in the car. That's the fuel tank. They were working at the front of this a few moments ago.
Well, you know, they have so many things to think about during a pit stop right now, and safety is the key issue. There'll be some officials addressing this, I'm sure, certainly after this race this weekend.
ready to go back to green flag racing as Tony Kanaan picks up the pace. He was averaging 211 miles an hour before the first yellow of the day, which came for debris and caused some even greater incidents. Dan Weldon started this lap in second place. Boy, look at this field come past.
Another one outside, coming outside.
Poor Darren, he was up in third place and something didn't work.
Sounded like he was in the wrong gear possibly, because it certainly didn't sound like it had the RPMs coming out of the engine.
Teammates, Herta.
Still there, he's still up there.
In the yellow and black car, battling with Dario Franchitti, the winner, 1 week to go at Milwaukee.
Still there. You got one looking low. You got Manning back there looking low. You got one down low.
Here comes Manning.
One high, one low, one high, one low.
Out of the way, I've got to get back up to the front.
Still outside. Outside.
Herta with Franchitti with Matsura right behind him in the 55. Back on board, Dario Franchitti. Now Manning again, looking forward.
Inside, inside. Dixon's inside. Inside, he's tucking in behind you. All clear.
Now let's go back up to the front of the field once again. Kanaan. Weldon's holding on. Buddy Rice is trying to force the issue.
Scott, do you drive any differently if you're Tony Kanaan right now, knowing that Dan Weldon, your teammate, is there?
Rice goes for and grabs second.
Right now, the key thing for Tony Kanaan is to conserve the equipment. We heard him say that earlier in the show, Jack. Some great radio work going on by the spotters there, letting those drivers know what's going on. Tony Kanaan's loving this right now, Jack. He looks in his mirror, see these guys running side by side all the way around the race course. He's just trying to pick a top gear, stay in the front, and conserve some fuel.
And look here at the front now. Just to the right here, you see Hornet right behind him. His teammate, Elio Castroneves, the number 3 car, has moved from the back up to battle at the front of the field, currently sitting 5th. Well, one of those positions is 5th.
Look how high those Penske cars are able to run. Really about the 3rd lane up around the race course. Tells you they're very comfortable with their race car, not having to hug the lower side. Number 3 right there with Castroneves, chasing his teammate right now, Hornish in number 6. This is fun stuff, guys. You're running a little bit dirty air right now, but you're going around here at 215 miles an hour average, 222, 223 going into the turns. This is what drivers love about this race course. Lots of racing room throughout the whole entire course.
Yeah, it takes a pretty special person to love that, though. Elio Castroneves, as he was coming into the pits after a great qualifying run that put him 2nd quick and on the front row, apparently over-revved the motor, and in doing so, they decided we have got to change the thing. They did it overnight. That moved him to the back of the field, but he started working his way to the front immediately.
Remember last week, Elio told us that he was so excited because he lives in Miami, and now Shaquille O'Neal is going to be playing for the Miami Heat.
So Elio Castroneves up with his teammate Sam Hornish. Top of the field remains Tony Kanaan, followed by Weldon and Rice. We asked the drivers before the start of the Michigan 400, do you have any superstitions?
Like any athlete, IndyCar drivers want to make sure they get maximum performance out of their machine, and they take every precaution so that they're safe once they're on the track. However, once they're strapped in, they want to make sure their mojo's working, whether it's a lucky charm or a rabbit's foot. Some of these guys are very superstitious.
I would say the biggest thing, I always make sure I eat a peanut butter jelly sandwich with, it's got to be boysenberry jelly right before the race.
Yeah, from left side to get in the car, left side to get out of the car. I don't go right side. No right side. Because the right side is the wall.
That way, I always pat the car 3 times before I get in it, and I think that's about it.
I have this thing with underwear, like when I have a good race, I'll try to keep the same one for the next race, you know, but nothing really big.
No, I know there's a lot of drivers that do. I have no superstitions. I don't do any rituals or any voodoo or yoga or any of that.
Well, The IRL Series takes a weekend off next week in 2 weeks at the Belterra Resort Indy 300. Rice, Weldon, Castroneves all taking points, trying to get Tony Kanaan, the points leader. Sunday, August 15th, 3:30, 12:30 Pacific. Riding with Townsend Bell, back in 13th place. Now listen here. Here's your Firestone telemetry, but listen.
As we ride along, Paul, you can just hear the engine go against the rev limiter. That's called a soft rev limiter. It will not allow the engine to go past the RPM limit of 10,300. Downshifting their lower gear to get the drive coming out of turn 2, where we're riding along right now. Back up to the top gear and listen to the engine.
We talk about that soft limiter, the car skate, that he's getting closer to Herta, and now he's losing a little downforce on the front.
Always when you're running behind the cars that are up in front, as these guys are experiencing right now, a little bit of turbulent air coming off the cars in front. Just makes for the car to move around the racetrack a little bit, which adds to the fun of this race course, Paul.
Speaking of that soft limiter, as we continue to watch at the front of the field, but Tony Kanaan pulls away a little bit. There's Adrian Fernandez. Last time across the line was 9th.
Still there. Still there. Second car inside. Inside clear.
Last week we showed you how incredibly popular Fernandez is in his homeland of Mexico. And I would say it can't be too far away from his first win in the IRL. This is his first season with the IndyCar.
A lot of experience in this racetrack, certainly knows what it takes to get to the end of a long race of 400 miles. Patience, focus, no mistakes, and clean pit stops. We've already seen one problem in the pit so far. All those accumulate to make a chance to win the race in those last 20 laps.
Scott, let's go back to that soft limiter thing. They've had some gearbox problems. Some of the chiefs are saying, well, that may be created by the soft limiter.
Well, the soft limiter, first to explain, Paul, there's a soft and a hard limiter. If the engine hits the RPM maximum of 10,300, the soft limiter just sort of impedes the flow of the car a little bit, not to allow the car to go over that rev limit, as I mentioned before. Now, the key thing with the rev limiter in a pit situation is that they're finding that possibly this pit speed limiter that they have and the actual traction control they have is not allowing the tires to spin, and putting a lot of stress on the drive shafts when the drivers leave the pit box.
You take a look at that blue and white car, Scott. Finally, Vitor Mir, a teammate to Buddy Rice, who runs in second, is broken into third. Rice is going to get some help now from a guy who's an accomplished triathlete. Last time, though, he competed in a triathlon before the start of the season. He said, I was going to do a lot more, but then I got employed by Ray Hall Letterman.
And that was a good thing for him and for the IRL fans. Mira now running third place, but he's more importantly up where he might be able to begin to help his teammate Buddy Rice in second.
Yeah, and if I'm Buddy Rice's spotter, I'm saying, Buddy, hang in there. Help is on the way.
Rice in that 15 car right there follows the number 11 of Tony Kanaan, the 711 car. Kanaan, the pole sitter, and has led every lap from the pole, and the points leader coming into this race. He has a full race lead in the points. That's not a good safety margin, considering there's still plenty of the season to go.
Now, if I'm Tony Kanaan in the green and white car leading this thing, I'm telling my spotter, where's Dan Weldon? Where's Dan Weldon? I'm going to need some help. I'm about to get double teamed.
Long, flat backstretch, and then they slam into the corners here in the high banks, and they can put the car about anywhere they want. Well, this track was designed to have a banking that went straight up and down. Over the years, it's settled a little bit in the middle, so it's a little concave, and that helps create the extra racing lanes.
Well, it certainly gives the grip for the drivers to have the confidence, Paul, to be able to go in that mid and high groove, and that's what's so important. Now, the new Homestead track that was just redone just recently was built much of like this, where we raced earlier in the year at Homestead, Florida for the very first race. It's basically a stepping stone for the banking, and this racetrack, although not built that way, has sort of ended up that way.
By leading the first quarter of the race, Tony Kanaan has over 540 laps this season in the lead, over 200 laps more than the next driver, who incidentally is his teammate, Dan Weldon. But the philosophy for that 11 car was to have been, take it easy. So, Jerry Punch, what's going on?
Yesterday, Kim Green talked about the pace they wanted to set, and Kim, you wanted to pace and save some fuel, and Tony likes to lead. How's the pace thus far?
Well, so far the car's good. He really looked after his Firestone tyres on that last run. We probably could have run another 10 laps on tyres, didn't have enough fuel, but he's doing a great job. It's a long way to go. We want to be comfortable out front if we can. If somebody gets around us, we'll sit and follow and try and make better fuel. But so far, everything's going well.
He's about to be double teamed by Ray Hall Letterman. Where's your help for him?
Well, we're hoping our teammates will come up. You know, it's a big ask, but we'd love a 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a tough series. There's so many good cars and a lot of good Hondas, obviously.
Kim Green, guys.
Well, as we watch Tony Kanaan with Buddy Rice chasing him from second place, Thomas Scheckter is down in the field once again. He led 122 laps when he won here in 2002. Kanaan has led all 69 thus far.
Welcome back to the Michigan Indy 400. You're taking a look at Ashley Judd as she pensively watches her husband Dario Franchitti, who won her most recent outing at Milwaukee. And Dario has certainly had his hands full. The last 5 laps, this car has been all over the racetrack, using all 3 lanes. They told him, try using the bars to dial the car in, but Dario said it doesn't do any good. I have got a serious handful at over 200 miles per hour. Guys?
Well, let's keep track of him, Jerry, here, and keep an eye on especially the motion of the steering wheel. Remember, Kosuke Matsura was the first to stop for the first round of stops. It appears he's going to be the first again, this on the 76th lap. He started second outside of the front row. Little change to the nose wings.
A little faster fuel fill now, Paul. 30-gallon tank this year versus 35 last year, so have an extra pit stop throughout the race.
Tori Takagi is in. That's A.J. Foyt IV leaving the pits. Takagi was involved in that contact with Thomas Scheckter on the first round of stops.
Some adjustments to their front wings also. You saw the crewmen go over to the front of the car, adjust the front wings.
Vitor Mira is scheduled into the Ray Hall Letterman pits, the car on the right of your screen. You want to try to get him in and out early and clear the pit. Felipe Giafone. Dreyer Reinbold Puret's entry.
His wife Alice is expecting their first child in October. And after this race this weekend, she's going to head back to Brazil.
Thomas Scheckter, bright yellow car, number 4, alongside the 2 Penske cars.
Now squeeze up 2 abreast, side by side, you're clear.
With that
clear
pit
both.
incident, fell a lap behind the race. And he's trying desperately to catch up.
Key thing he has to do is get another lap back, Paul.
Vitor Mira leads a group of 2 Penske cars. And Scott Dixon and Adrian Fernandez into the pits. Jamie Little.
Sam Hornish Jr. is coming in. He's not expected to make any changes. He's happy with the car. Elio Castroneves will go up and wing a little bit. Todd?
Vitor Mira in safely. No changes whatsoever for him. They're hoping to get him out quickly. He's back out to help Buddy.
First round of stops came under green flag. Second round as well. Here's Buddy Rice on the pit road.
Buddy Rice has said the car is perfect, not a single change. You hear the crew chiefs and Steve Dixon team manager say, hit your mark, hit your mark. He revs the engine. Remember, they can ill afford to stall it, leaving pit road here. Looks to be routine. Watch the fuel disconnect. Disconnects and Rice is away.
Go.
Rice on his way. There's the 11 car of Tony Kanaan. He's kept it now out to the 81st lap. And that could make a big difference at the end of the race. Scheckter comes in safely this time.
Thomas, retake fuel.
again, a miscue. They pulled the vent, and the fueler looked over and said, I'm not done yet here, and they tried to put it back in, then they pulled both hoses. And Thomas Schechter gets a nose out over Dario Franchitti.
1 year ago, Alex Barron spun in the late stages of the race and came back to win. Could we see Thomas Schechter come from a lap down?
Darren Manning now on pit road.
Up and down the road. You see Herta is in there. Some big changes to Weldon's car. And both of the Red Bull Team Cheever cars on the pit road. Barron and Carpenter, and here comes the leader of the race, Jerry Punch.
Tony Kanaan once again coming down pit road. Expect a very, very slight air pressure adjustment, but no other major change. Oh, a near miss for Kanaan as he enters as the Red Bull car was leaving. Kanaan now on the air jack. All four tires on. No wing change. Slight air pressure. Tony still waiting.
Looking for Rice now. Here comes Rice. Kanaan by his pit position can hop on the throttle almost immediately. Let's see how they come out.
Now the interesting thing here, Paul, will be who has the fastest in-lap and exit lap, and is Rice going to have enough momentum to get past Kanaan going down the backstretch?
Kanaan on the backstretch looking for Rice. There's Rice. Oh, Tony Kanaan, you see him there, stays in front. Tony Kanaan, the green and white car as he comes outside of Takagi and Sharp. Sharp, the yellow and red down low. Boy, that was a nice piece of work.
Tells you the driver pushed the car to the limit on the in-lap to get in to have his service work done and was up to speed on pit road, coming out as quick as possible, something drivers strive for.
Yeah, but Scott, give kudos to the crew as well. The guys over the wall are the ones that really accounted for that advantage that this 7-Eleven cars now has over Ray Hall Letterman.
Well, as a former driver, I got to take a little credit for the drivers.
Well, that is a crew in the Andretti Green stable. They all practice pit stops every day. They've got a whole pit built up in their shop to be able to do so. So it's Kanaan, Rice, Mira, 1, 2, 3. That's the way it's been much of the race, but will it stay that way? We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC station. We're quickly approaching the halfway point in the Michigan Indy 400 at Michigan International Speedway. The luckiest of fans can find some shade here, but there's very little shade. It's a beautiful day. Temperatures in the mid-80s. In the Irish hills of southern Michigan, you're looking back at Kotsky-Matsura, and you got a glimpse there of the 8 car, this car, of Scott Sharp. There is Thomas Schechter, the number 4 car. At a pit incident earlier, you may remember that, and Jamie Little's been keeping track. Now we have a medical update. Jamie?
Well, right now, Steve Namasnak is in the medical center. They have some ice on his leg, but preliminary results say that nothing is broken. That's the good news. But he is going to go to the hospital after the race and get further x-rays. So right now, the good news is the crew member for Thomas Schechter is doing all right, nothing broken, and the team is picking up where they left off.
Well, that's good news. It was very, very close. Schechter was coming in on his first pit stop, and then Tora Takagi was waved out and got the back end of Schechter's car, and that put Snack trapped between the left front wheel and the wall. So we hope he's okay. It sounds like a pretty good report, Scott.
Certainly does. As a driver, you never want to hit any of your crew members going into the pit lane. Something the driver is always aware of. You want to go in there as quick as possible, but you certainly don't want to hit your own people.
Well, Russ Thompson has come up with a fairly interesting fact. But you consider Tony Kanaan has led all the way here. He still only has the 5th fastest lap of the day. Matsura has the 2 fastest, followed by Mira and Herta. All of those laps over 215 miles an hour. Alex Barron, the defending champion. You met him during our Firestone pregame show.
Spoke to Alex this morning. His mom Sharon is here watching the race for the first time, and his twin daughters that are 14 years old, Ashley and Carrie. here watching Dad go around, hopefully for another victory.
Alex Barron doesn't get a lot of time back home. In fact, he spends most of his time in Indianapolis rooming with a couple of the crew members on his team. I said, you're going to have a weekend off before we go to Kentucky. You're going to get to go home. He said, absolutely, but first I've got to do a tire test for Firestone on Monday. Then I'm going to get some well-deserved time off, going back out on the West Coast to at least enjoy some of the California sun.
Back at the front of the field, Tony Kanaan, the green and white car. The 15 car is Rice, the Indy champion, and the 17, Vitor Meira, Rice's teammate, who everyone thinks will have at least one win before this season is over.
Okay, you're going to have some traffic up in front of Tony here in a couple laps.
Guys, the orders have come down now from the Ray Hall Letterman camp to Vitor Meira and Buddy Rice. Now is not the time to race each other. Now's the time to stay in line. We're able to inhale now, Tony Kanaan. Stay together. We can push one car, maybe both cars by the Andretti Green machine. Let's see if it works.
Well, both the Ray Hall Letterman cars certainly seem to like the high line all the way through the turns. Tony then protecting the low side. Remember, the shortest way around is on the low side. Less travel distance, less fuel mileage. Make the other drivers go around the high side to get around you.
Okay, let's be smooth with traffic. Keep the other pack behind us. It's going to be Lazier and Carpenter ahead of Tony there.
And leaders have quite a bit of traffic ahead of him. Pat Patrick's famous number 20 car, that red machine driven by Jacques Lazier, and Ed Carpenter in the Red Bull Team Cheever car.
Okay, go to this side, don't stretch this side, this side.
Oh, a little wiggle off of Tony Kanaan.
Remember, when you run behind the cars in front of you, you get that dirty air. Cars get a little bit light.
Next in line for the leaders to try and overhaul is Felipe Giafone.
Next on that, we've got Felipe Giafone and AJ Boyd ahead of Tony.
They kind of split the difference. Kanaan tries to highline and then comes back low, and Rice stays with him.
Now you see how everybody comes off of turn 2, guys, and goes down towards the white line to protect that. The white line will become an issue, I think, in the last 20 laps of this race. Certainly from the fact that guys trying to come off of turn 2 get below the driver in front because they want the inside line going down to turn 3. But the driver in front's going to protect it as much as he can. And remember, if you go below the white line, Brian Barnhart, the Vice President of Operations, says you are penalized.
Yeah, and race control is, in general, keeping track of some of those in warning cars right now.
I'm very impressed with the run of Tony Kanaan. By himself, without the help of any of his Andretti Green teammates, he's been able to lead this thing despite the onslaught by Ray Hall Letterman with Buddy Rice and Vitor Meira. They can't draft their way by.
.100 laps of the 200 now complete. We're at the halfway point in the Michigan 400. Tony Kanaan, so far out in front, half a second, just racing against himself. Tony Kanaan, running laps at better than 215 miles an hour, is leading and has led right from the start, all 106 laps of the Michigan Indy 400. We've had 2 caution periods, both of them for debris. Only one incident, and that was in the pits when Thomas Scheckter got punted from behind into his pit stall, and one of his crewmen was caught between the left front wheel and the wall. Scheckter now on the way into the pits. He's been trying to get a lap back. He's currently running 19.
Just Thomas, reset fuel, reset fuel. Keep your revs up, revs up. Leave that ventral wave. Clear to the outside, clear to the outside. The pack's coming past you at start-finish line.
Only 27 laps, though, since Thomas Schechter's last pit and under the green flag. What's with that?
Well, possibly didn't get all the fuel into the car during that last pit stop with all the excitement that was going on, Paul. So the key thing is come in, be safe. If you run out of fuel here, it's a long ways around, 2 miles. You'll be losing more laps. Right now, he's catching the leaders at his pace before that pit stop. If it goes right for him, he might get back in the lead lap.
Kanaan, Rice, Mira, Hornish, Dixon, the top 5. Tony Kanaan has moved into the top 20 among lap leaders at Michigan. Next in front of him are Scott Goodyear and Sam Hornish. Yellow comes on.
This works to Sam Hornish's favor, guy. Does not need to pit. He's already just came in here about 2 laps ago. This is the break that he's been looking for.
Second yellow of the day. Debris yellow.
Debris meaning there's some foreign object on the race course somewhere around here that the officials have identified. They'll send out the safety trucks to pick it up, inspect the racetrack before they send it back to green.
From what I've seen under green flag conditions, I actually think that this yellow flag is going to put you in a position where you can gain a spot if you had problems down on pit road. Used to be you could take a little bit of a rest, be a little more secure on your pit stop. Not anymore. This is going to be wild and woolly action, even though it's under a yellow on pit road.
Yeah, not unexpected look. You've got most of the field laid out there and ready to go. Of course, Jack's pick for the win, Matsura, was in under green a few laps ago. That may work to his advantage here.
Now the key, I think, Scott, is if you are Buddy Rice and Dan and also his teammate Vitor Mira, as we see them go through the screen here, you've got to make sure that you have the same sort of pit stops that you have had. If you're Tony Kanaan, however, you've got the advantage as being the defending winner of Milwaukee and get the first pit stall, so you don't have anybody in front of you. You can be a little, not necessarily reckless, but you can drop the accelerator a little bit faster than maybe the 2 guys behind that 7-Eleven car will in their pit stop.
And that's a great observation, Jack, because what usually plays in the last pit stop, if there's only the last pit stop, a few laps left to go, the guy in the front usually gets the advantage, and Kanaan's the man.
Going for a triple split, Kanaan, Rice, Mira, top to bottom. Kanaan is all the way down at the pit exit. Mira is into the pits. There's Rice, Kanaan. They come in together. Takes a little bit longer because there's less fuel in the big tank. Kanaan rolls away first. Problem there in Rice's pit. And also with Franchitti. Franchitti comes out with a long stop. Rice comes out in second. Hornish gets around Mira. That's Tori Takagi coming out there.
As close as those pit stops were, I think there is a distinct advantage to being in pit stall number 1. Tony Kanaan enjoys that today, and it paid off.
So Tony Kanaan's crew once again does a terrific job and gets his car in and out in the lead. There they are coming out at the line, the blend line that marks them. And you saw Hornish was right up there alongside of Rice.
Welcome back to the Michigan Indy 400. The green flag is out and we have a lead change, guys. That last pit stop, Sam Hornish Jr. came in. He made no changes. He has not made a change all day. He got 4 tires, full fuel. That is the way you make a pit stop, guys. He made up a spot. And Todd?
Well, Michael Andretti sure likes the way the Andretti green team is running. Dan Weldon came in last time, tire and fuel. Earlier he was reporting a bad balance in the car. They took some air pressure out. Right next to him is the Vitor Mira pit. Now he came in, had some front wing adjustment and tire pressure adjustment. But now his teammate, Buddy Rice, is taking the lead. Let's check in with Doc.
Guys, neither Buddy Rice nor Tony Kanaan wanted a single change on their cars. It was up to the crews to try to get them out. So Buddy Rice's pit stop, 9.0 seconds. But how about Tony Kanaan? 8.95. That close on pit road, and now this close on the racetrack.
Well, Buddy Rice stuck his nose up and then ahead of Tony Kanaan, but then Kanaan in the 11 car was able to force his way back to the front. So now, with 2 cautions for debris, no incidents on the racetrack, it is Kanaan who remains in the lead, 117 laps out in the lead of this race, starting from the pole. And this is a guy who said at starting that he didn't particularly care if he led this race. Now here comes Vitor Mira, the 17 car. He comes up alongside of Buddy Rice, and that red and white car in the middle of that's Sam Hornish Jr. He's stuck right with the front.
And the red and white car right in the outside to the left of your screen, that's Dan Weldon. That's Tony Kanaan's teammate. He's riding the high side trying to get in the fracas.
Now on the 119th lap, it looks like they're beginning to think about it.
You see, after the start, when they've all fanned out, they all start to get single lines. See them snake down to that white line we talked about, that low side. That's what all the drivers are trying to protect here. They fan out in the turn.
Hornish tries the low line on Vitor Mira. Weldon sits high, back across the line again.
Tony Kanaan has a luxury of choosing the line that he wants as the leader. He gets to pick it, going into the turn, through the turn, and out of there. He looks in his mirror right now and sees going 3 and 4 wide, Paul.
Hornish makes a move down to the inside of Buddy Rice. There he is, the 6 car. There's Rice. There's Vitor Mira right behind him, and there's Weldon.
The Toyota power is coming on. We talked about that at the beginning of the show. And Hornish gets his wheels below the white line. A little bit of the wiggle out of the car. Now, he's not from very far from here. Defiance, Ohio is less than an hour here. A lot of Sam Hornish fans here today.
And Elio Castroneves, you see him just up ahead. Got around Weldon. And Castroneves, who started all the way in the back, is now in 5th place. They dance down the backstretch again.
And dance is a great word, Paul. That's a 215, 220 mile an hour dance.
But here's what I think's happening, fellas. We heard on the radio transmissions to Buddy Rice them saying, okay, get tucked in and start to make some mileage. I think all the drivers now are starting to think about the end of the race. I question whether Buddy Rice really wants to challenge Tony Kanaan. Wanted to let him know he was there. Now you need to stay in the draft and try and keep the mileage, get the mileage up, because it may come into play by the end of this race.
Jack, you're exactly right. I was standing in the Tony Rice pit, and a moment ago, Scott Remke echoed exactly what you said. He just told Buddy Rice, we have got to make some fuel mileage, but according to calculations here, they cannot make it on just one more stop.
Does that include, Jerry Punch, a calculation that would account for, say, a 10-lap yellow period?
They probably would need a little more than 10 laps, Paul, on yellow, and it would be very close, but they would need at least 12 or so. But Buddy Rice and Vitor Mira, neither one getting the fuel mileage they would like here in this one today.
Vitor Mira, the 17 car, continues to battle it out, both with his teammate, Buddy Rice, the Indy 500 champion. Look at the 3 car of Elio Castroneves, stuck it right up on the gearbox of Vitor Mira last time around.
Remember, these guys are doing that at 215, 20 miles an hour. You see the cars move around. A little bit of a touch. Look at that left front wing of Castroneves is right there. Sheared
damage
off the end plate.
Yep, damage to the end plate right front of Elio Castroneves. They stay green. Whoa! And the yellow flag comes out. There's Franchitti. What's interesting is the yellow light system, at least the one here in the booth, which is in theory the same in the cars, did not come on. The yellow flag came out at the start-finish line. Last week's winner, Dario Franchitti, climbs out. He looks pretty disgusted and walks away from the car.
Hey, Paul, apparently the problem in the Franchitti pits is the engine just went away abruptly without any warning at all. Dario said the engine's gone. He pulled it over to keep it from seizing up across the racetrack. Their day is done.
And Vitor Mira has a left rear going down. Contact with Castroneves.
You can see that left rear of Vitor Mira's. Look how it's very flat right there. You can see that tire looks very flat across there, has lost air. We watch now, watch the cars going through there, and here you go. You can see the right front wing of Castroneves slice the rear tire of Vitor Mira. That end plate of Castroneves' car is like a razor blade, just will actually cut the rear tire. He just stuck.
Whoa, man.
That was Franchitti with a mechanical problem that we heard. These guys did an amazing job to miss that. There's the piece of wing that came off, which is actually stuck up in the fence from Castroneves' car.
Roger Penske in touch with his car, Sam Hornish, in fact, in this case, who is currently fourth. Penske looking at a possible win here. Hornish has been a guy really to keep track of in this run, but Kanaan still leads. Well, a good portion of the field, including the leadership, all came into the pits with this caution that came out, and it turned into a mess. You saw one crew member down there in the live shot. This was just a moment ago. Keep your eye on that number 17 car. Here comes Adrian Fernandez. He turns Mira, and that turns him into the 26 car of Dan Weldon and catches what looks to be the right front guy, Mike Horvath. Now watch this.
Again, Fernandez coming out right there. He should not have come out when he did. He should have let Mira go by, and turning around, you can see the right front crewman, just emotion that's coming out of him because he knows he's cost his driver time on the pit box.
Well, but it was, I mean, he used the wrong target. Mira just became the center of that sandwich as they came in. Now watch this again.
You can see the green and red car just tag the back of the blue and white, which is Mira. The wings come up and catch him, and good thing that the car moves the 26 of Weldon. Not too much injury, we hope, to the crewman that's on the right front. The most dangerous job right now for a crewman is always the guys on the outside of the car, Paul, the right front and the right rear.
Buddy Rice stayed out. That gave him the lead of the race under the caution flag. And so now Rice is coming in, Jerry Punch.
And Paul, because Rice is not getting as good a fuel mileage, that's why he pitted 2 laps after Tony Kanaan and others under that yellow here. Now watch Ricardo Nault, the right front tire changer. He will signal when Rice is ready. Full of fuel, very deliberately under the yellow. He is down and away.
This is the incident that we just showed you is the second of the day. That crew up there at the top in the yellow and black, Thomas Schechter's crew, was an incident as well that caught a pit crew member out. This is Fernandez, who of course got into the back of Vitor Mira, and they're taking a hard look at the nose on that car.
Let's remember that a driver doesn't know what's coming up behind him, and that was the case in this particular incident. Not necessarily this one. This was, of course, the first with Thomas Schechter.
And you see the vent guy get caught there.
And good news that he's okay. He may go to the hospital for a checkup, but they continue to persevere, the Pennzoil Panther team.
Saw Michael Andretti. Well, you see him in and out there. Right there and very concerned. Todd Harris.
Well, I'm just here with Mike Horvath. Just gave me the thumbs up. It's the left ankle. They put an ice pack on it. They wanted him to stay down a little longer, but he said, I'm good. It's just a little bit sore. He was very frustrated, you saw in that replay. He didn't know. The first thing he asked is, how did Mira hit me? He didn't know that Vitor Mira was tagged in the back by Adrian Fernandez. Mira, meanwhile, came in because that left rear tire is completely shredded on the left side when he came in contact with Helio Castroneves. He's back out now, guys.
Here in the Michigan Indy 400, we're under caution. We just had a pit incident, second one of the day. This involved Dan Weldon's crew chief. There he is, Mike Horvath, on the right front of the car. As they were doing their regular pit stop, Vitor Mira was on his way in, and then he got tagged in the back by Adrian Fernandez. And look how mad Horvath figures that it's Mira's mistake that cuts his feet out from under him. And he turns around and smacks the wing on the car. Yeah, but it wasn't Vitor's. It was really Fernandez getting into the back of Mira. Now, Mike Horvath has an ice pack on his ankle, says he's going to stay in the pits.
You know, that's the emotion for these guys, Paul. These guys work all week long to come here for the race. They want to win this race just as bad as a driver does. He does not want to leave the pit area. He wants to be part of the team. He wants to be there because he knows that his driver has a possibility of running up front and winning this race. The emotion of those drivers are very, very strong in the crews. Todd?
Down to Todd Harris.
All right, Mike Horvath, that was a very difficult situation. You had no idea it was coming on the blind side.
No idea he was coming there, but I guess Fernandez must have got into him and pitched him into the back of me. I saw him coming. I knew he was going to be in right behind us, but I had no idea he was going to come in quite that aggressively.
Then you got a little Mike Tyson punch in there for good measures.
I got to apologize to those guys. That was just pure anger right there. I didn't know if my foot was going to come with me when I got up, and I was scared.
Mike, we're glad you're okay. Good luck the rest of the way. Let's send it over to Doc Punch.
And down in the ARCA X pits, Dario Franchitti has stepped out of his car. Dario, a tough afternoon for you. What put you out?
Yeah, I think we had a I think there was an engine problem, I'm not sure. It was getting slower and slower, and that was it really. Unfortunately, our KX car was pretty good, and we're making some ground up that last restart, but wasn't to be today. Pretty disappointed.
Dario Franchitti, last week's winner, steps out early as we get back to the green flag here at Michigan.
Green flag comes out at Michigan International Speedway with Darren Manning on point, but Tony Kanaan doesn't want that to continue, so he goes flying around and into the lead. Hornish drops into second. You can also see the 4-car of Thomas Scheckter trying desperately to get up there and get his lap back. He dropped a lap behind when he had that pit incident earlier, and look at the lineup behind him.
Wheel to wheel, 215 miles an hour. Those guys are doing it routinely today.
Kanaan, Hornish, Herta, Dixon, Weldon, the top 5. And there they all, right together. Rice trying to come up through the field. He dropped down to 12th place.
Outside.
Goes around the Delphi car, Scott Sharp.
Yeah, but right now the key for Buddy Rice is to show some patience as he goes to the outside of the blue and white car. His teammate, Vitor Mir, he's way up high, Scott. And now he's just got to remember that there's plenty of laps left for him to get back to the front.
Still over 70 laps, Jack. You're absolutely correct. These guys need to make sure that they have the patience because they need to be there at the end. Got a lot of cars in front of him. He just needs to sit back and be calculated.
If what we're seeing right now is supposed to be patient driving, what's it going to be like when we get to the last 20 laps? Every driver says that the dynamics change then and you go for it. I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Oh, it's a great time, especially because this track is so wide, so many passing lanes, gives you opportunity. If you try something that doesn't work, you gather yourself back up and try it again down the other end of the racetrack. The last 20 laps, that's going to be a shootout.
Thomas Scheckter, the 4-car, is not part of the lead battle. He's simply trying to get around the leader and get his lap back.
And look who's moved into 3rd spot, that black and yellow and red car, Brian Herta, the only driver in the 4-car Andretti Green team that is yet to win this season.
And it would be a great win for him, Jack, because he's from Warren, Michigan, which is not too far away from him, so I guess if you call this his home track, he must have to.
No team in IRL history has ever had 4 drivers win in 1 year.
Hornish works the inside of Scheckter. Hornish is second. Almost a full second ahead now is Tony Kanaan. Largest interval of the day. Boy, back here it's anybody's guess. Hornish is the Penske car low. Castroneves is the one in the middle. And Weldon is the other red and white car in the mix, number 26. And to add to it, another red and white, number 10, Darren Manning, with Buddy Rice sitting up on his right rear.
A little hand gesture from Danny Weldon.
Was that just a pleasantry between 2 countrymen? Or?
Maybe he said, I'm putting my foot in the gas and I'm leaving.
Buddy Rice continues to work up on the high side. Oh, that's a little close. In fact, that lens will tend to foreshorten just a little bit too, so that was even closer. Kanaan now 15th among the lap leaders at Michigan. Will he stay in front? We're about to find out. Back at the Michigan Indy 400, Thomas Scheckter is going side by side with the leader, the 11 car of Tony Kanaan. Scheckter is trying to get back on the lead lap.
And he's doing it the hard way, Paul. He's going around the outside. His car seems to be a little bit better in 3 and 4. And Tony Kanaan seems to be a little bit better off of 1 and 2.
Buddy Rice up to second place, trying to get into this battle. And trapped Scheckter low. Then the 2 red and white Penske cars, Sam Hornish and Elio Castroneves, lined up right behind.
This weekend is a big step for Chevrolet. Came here with some updates. Not really been that competitive as far as running up the front so far this year, but certainly now this weekend, Chevrolet is showing well with both the Panther Racing cars, Townsend Bell and also Thomas Schechter.
Castroneves. He's the number 3 car, high on the 15 car of Buddy Rice. He tried to make a move on him last corner. Lost a little momentum and is now dropped back. Dan Weldon's just behind him.
Now, Tony Kanaan is very cognizant about what Thomas Schechter is trying to accomplish here. He knows he wants to be in front of him, so if there is another yellow, he gets passed around to the back of the pack, and he gets his lap back. He knows his car is strong. He wants to make sure he stays a lap down so he's not a factor coming to the end of the race.
Hornish and Rice side by side for second. Vitor Mira has been having some problems with his number 17 car. In fact, he's reported in, it's extraordinarily loose. Mira is down in 13th place. Remember, he was up in the lead fight, and there's the lead fight. Boy, Schechter is still giving Kanaan a good race here, even though not for position.
What he's trying to do is try to keep Kanaan low, especially coming off the turns, so Kanaan has to lift his foot off the throttle. You see, going in the turns, Kanaan's trying to push Schechter a little bit high, so he has his own groove. If Thomas can keep Kanaan very low to the white line off the turn, he's got to breathe the throttle, he'll get the run down the straightaway, which it looks like he's accomplishing right now.
Every time Thomas Schechter tries to get that lap back, do you notice that behind them the scramble takes place? It's the Marlboro car, red and white on the inside. That, of course, Sam Hornish Jr. and Buddy Rice in the red and blue car on the outside. Now he's going to go on the outside of Schechter.
3 wide they go. And look back behind those 3, the 55 car of Koski Matsura, who has turned many of the fastest laps, better than 215 miles an hour in this race, is back up in the front running 4th.
Rice almost pulled it off, didn't have enough momentum through turns 1 and 2.
Dan Weldon and Koski get really close together. Weldon doesn't lift, he stays with it.
Inside now. Inside.
Have we seen this scenario before, Manning, Koski, and Weldon? Five cars, Adrian Fernandez.
Can you hear the RPMs pick up on the car as soon as he gets in that draft, falling behind the car just in front. Couple hundred RPMs, not much, but it means a big difference.
Both of the Target Chip Ganassi cars continue to run fairly close to one another on the racetrack. Darren Manning, one of them, currently running in 7th with his teammate, the defending series champion. Dixon is sitting back just behind him, and Manning has the Toyota Target fastest lap of the race.
I asked Darren what he's going to do with his week off this week, and he said, you know, I think I'm going to go hang out at the X Games and see what that's all about out in California next week.
Well, Jamie Little and I will be out there. We're doing Supermoto. Jamie's doing a whole bunch of stuff. I'm an X guy. I don't know if you knew that.
I don't see you fitting in with the X crowd.
I fit, man. I'm down with him. Is that proper usage?
Off the throttle a little bit, losing momentum allows Weldon just to go around the outside.
Yeah, look at that. Fernandez, green and white, green and red.
Scott, you said it at the top of the show. The great part about this racetrack, there's so many lanes. I mean, at any other racetrack, we'd really be upset or scared about what we're seeing. But this is normal for Michigan International Speedway.
Well, it's normal. I've said this to you guys before because I've been here so many times. The guys out there, as close as this is, are having a lot of fun. This is exciting racing right now because you know you have the room to go in there and try something. If it doesn't work, maybe you're not going to hit the wall. Maybe you're going to have a chance to sort of collect the car. The guys know that. They're going to push a little harder. We talked about those last 20 laps, Jack. I mean, we're seeing what we see right now. The last 20, it's going to be great.
55 car, Panasonic machine, Kotsuki Matsura, who has been very fast throughout the day. Tora Takagi helped bring this guy along, and he now sits fairly solidly in second, but he's got Buddy Rice working him.
I asked Tom Anderson, the crew chief and the team manager for Kosuke, about how the progress has been for him. He said, well, he started out in kindergarten at the beginning of the season. He's moved to the senior prom and to high school, but by the end of the year, we want him to graduate from college. They like this guy, and they think he's going to win. So do I.
With good reason. Whoa, and Scheckter slowed down on the backstretch. Saw him down to the inside. Suddenly totally off the pace, under the line.
I would say, guys, the way that he shakes the car around is usually a time when you're looking for fuel. The fuel pickup is not actually getting the gas, so that possibly might be a problem there.
He stopped last on the 107th lap.
Scott,
so likely.
Paul, remember, in that accident, they knocked the fuel tank. They had to work on that fuel tank. Could it be out of kilter to where they're not getting the full 35 gallons in their pit stop?
Well, I mean, certainly anything is possible with 30 gallons that they put in today, but the key thing, I think, right now is that maybe there's a problem with the fuel pickup, guys, and he's not being able to pick up the fuel.
Yeah, Thomas Scheckter looks like he's going to roll to a stop up between turn 3 and 4. The Delphi safety team is rolling, and we'll be right back.
Whoa. God.
Welcome back to Michigan, and we've got more incidents on pit lane. Paul, what do you got from up there?
Well, we have one guy down. Fernandez is totally spun around in the pit, pacing the wrong direction. Looked like we had another crew member down, but he jumped right back up. Kananen comes out first. This is logically the last stop of the day for everybody. Todd.
You're exactly right. Vitor Meira, they're all saying this is his last stop of the day. It's going to be a costly one, though. This pit stop of 20-plus seconds. What they had to do was change the whole front nose section. As you remember that last incident when they came in and got together with Mike Horvath. Horvath fell in the front wing, damaged it, but give Vitor Meira credit. He stayed out there for all that time until the yellow, but he is done pitting for the day.
Boy, there's an angry Mexican coming out of those pits. He got totally turned around. What's with the pits today?
I'm not sure, Paul, but when you take a look at this on the replay, you can see that for Adrian Fernandez, this was a costly stop. Just pulls down on the pit road, looking for his marks. They count him in 3, 2, 1, and the brakes lock up. 60 miles an hour may be too fast for these cars now, even under caution.
Well, we saw the cars coming in. The other guy started to slow down. It looked like he did not slow down all that much. He's trying to take advantage of the pit stop, come in quicker, get a quick pit stop, and leave, probably carrying too much speed on the brakes, turning the car. The back end gets light jack, and it goes around in a circle.
And not the first time that Adrian Fernandez has been involved with a pit incident today. I mean, he seems to be in all of them lately. And I'm just beginning to think, and I'm of the opinion by myself, we should lower the speed limit under yellows and greens to below 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, but you know, the other side of that argument, and I've heard a number of drivers make it, Scott will ask you, but Paul Tracy most notably said, look, it's the speed limit that's actually causing this, because everybody figures you just go 60 miles an hour isn't that fast.
Well, you know, 60 mile an hour doesn't feel that fast when you're doing 215 or 220 all day long, but you have to slow the car down. Now watch as the car's coming in. Hornish is slowing down already, and you see the red and green car of Fernandez starting to continue his speed past Hornish, and he just gets on the brakes, turns the wheel to get into his pit stall, and too fast, too much speed. The back end of the car is light, under braking, and the car spins around.
But my point, fellas, is that it's 60 miles an hour. You see the jockeying going on in this replay? Everybody's looking for their spot, trying to gain a position, and that's what happens.
Well, and the key thing here is that everybody's trying to rush into the pit box. With everybody coming in, once the pits open up, you know, the old rule of staying in the very right-hand lane, transferring over through the transfer lane into your pit box almost goes away. These guys are jockeying for positions, which is really against the rules underneath. Brian Barnhart, the Vice President of Operations, says, guys, you got to be in the right-hand lane, transfer over before your pit box. I will guarantee you that there is going to be a large-size meeting before the next race about pit etiquette coming into pit stops.
Sure, be sure of that, but it's a direct result of the ultra-competitive nature of this series right now. You look for an advantage wherever you can get it. Before, you had a little protocol, and maybe you used a little courtesy. Not anymore.
Don't forget, from the creator of Alias, 48 survivors stranded on a mysterious island, and they're not alone, lost. Wednesdays this fall on ABC. Cole Selva scheduled to be the right front on Mira's car. He took a pretty good shot when in fact they came in and Fernandez got him.
You know, Paul, I have not seen this many pit instances in any event. I can't think of this many pit instances in a whole season, actually. So this is a very strange day here at Michigan.
Yeah, strange a couple of different ways, not the least of which is no incidents actually on the track. Back at the start, lap 36, this was Thomas Scheckter. And then this problem for Tor Takagi. Steve Namasak, he was the one that got hit by Scheckter, and then we saw some great side-by-side racing as Scheckter tried to come up. Now, lap 124 has really set the whole tone for the race. Mira gets Castroneves, then Dario Franchitti has a problem with the engine, and then Fernandez punches Mira, and that puts him into the 26 car. An angry Mike Horvath pounds on the wing. And then, of course, in this last group of stops, we saw another incident in the pits once again. So they are putting out the black flag for Adrian Fernandez. There he is, the 5 car. They just radioed him and told him he was getting one. The green flag will come out as Fernandez has to answer the black flag. That'll bring him into the pit. Rice goes for the lead. Rice, the red, white, and blue car on the high side. He did this on a restart earlier. It didn't work then. It doesn't look like it's going to work now. Tony Kanaan in the 11 car is on a tear. The black flag penalty will be a stop-and-go penalty for Adrian Fernandez for hitting in the pits. And so Hornich takes advantage of that one. Hornich to second. And now Rice being worked on by Dan Weldon.
Remember, Hornich won the first race that he had for Penske back in Homestead, Florida earlier in the year. Penske's not won at this racetrack since 1991 in an open wheel series.
Adrian Fernandez answers the black flag. It's just a stop and go, but well, here that puts it so far behind. And here comes the field. Notice, too, there in 5th place, Townsend Bell. Now he dropped back to 6th now. Brian Herta working on the inside.
Bell in that blue car as we ride on board with the Menards car from the Pennzoil Panther team. Having a good run today after a shaky start at the beginning of his career with Pennzoil Panther a couple of races back, but he's put together some good races. Milwaukee was good, and now he's doing it now.
And just behind him, the Target Chip Ganassi team and the AJ and the Andretti Green car of Brian Herta. Now, remember, too, that Scott Dixon is driving with an injured wrist.
3 wide through that front section, and that is the area where there's the biggest bump on the racetrack, just past the start and finish line. And a lot of time the cars get light there. They know that they certainly have to give the drivers on either side a little bit more room.
One of the things, Scotts, they've discovered about that bump, a lot of the crews are working what they call shock rebound, where the shock will actually bounce back, and it'll provide them just a little bit of a bump draft type to get them go just a little bit faster off that bump. That's how precise things are getting now.
Jamie Little, unfortunately, you've got to get us another medical update.
That's right. It's Kosuke Matsuura's one of his crew members, Rodrigue Griffith. He said he's fine. He just got clipped on that last pit stop, but Adrian Fernandez got on the radio when he went back out, and he said, guys, I'm sorry. I was just too anxious. I wanted it too bad. It was my fault.
Well, he paid for it with a stop-and-go penalty. And as Scott Goodyear, two-time winner of this race at a 500-miler, in the kart days would have, you would think that there's going to be a lot of lecturing within the next couple of weeks. They have a weekend off before they go to race in Kentucky.
Well, the IRL wants to put on a great show, which they've done with close finishes at all the racetracks that they go to. But the #1 mandate from the IRL is safety. And I can assure you that this next week there's going to be a lot of meetings, phone calls going on about safety.
So let's figure out where we are right now. Tony Kanaan is still the leader of the race. He has been all day. Buddy Rice has twice made a valiant effort to run on him. Both times it has not worked. Thomas Scheckter, the problem there was they went 47 laps from the last time they refueled. Once they got him into the pits and got fuel in it, yeah, it'll go. But here's the key. 44, 45 laps seems to be the fuel tank. That's going to be right on the finish here when they're running out of fuel.
And I'll also tell you where we are, Paul, right now. We're just about 10 laps away from where all the drivers told us before the race they were going to ratchet it up. How much more competitive can this thing get?
Yeah, I want to see what that is.
Well, 20 laps to go. If you have any brains, I think you just throw them out the cockpit, guys, and put your foot on the gas, and it's just time to go racing.
Finally a true analysis. Just throw them out. Adrian Fernandez down on the inside while the leader tries to get around him. Fernandez, of course, with his stop-and-go penalty, is down off the lead lap. Buddy Rice now has to deal with Adrian Fernandez. It's Kanaan, Rice, Hornish, Dixon, Castro, Neves. Kanaan has now led twice as many laps this season as the next closest driver. Will he lead the last one here today? ABC Sports Championship Television. We're at the Michigan Indy 400 live coverage. And the battle at the front of the field has just been phenomenal, though totally dominated by Tony Kanaan. But still, it seems that Buddy Rice, lap after lap, is always there, always in the mirrors, always testing. The two have both gotten around Adrian Fernandez, the green and white car who stays on the high line here. But he's a lap down owing to a penalty. And then behind him, everybody's trying to get to the front, and they are all very close.
Paul, we've seen Tony Kanaan on the start, on restarts, even through traffic, be so strong. Does Buddy Rice have enough for him today? Only Buddy really knows inside that cockpit, because right now he knows what he has. He knows how much he has to push the car just to stay in second. This is going to be very interesting to see what happens.
But Scott, by the same token, watch the way Buddy Rice is driving around this racetrack. He's trying different lines. He's kind of seeking out, I think, what he's going to do for his move. They say he'd rather be second than first on the final lap here at Michigan.
Well, you certainly would, but you see he's drafting in line, going down the straightaways, conserving fuel. He gets through the turns. He just moves off the line of Kanaan just a little bit so he gets the clean air going across the car. Doesn't get that disturbing air going across there, so he doesn't have any handling problems, which might put his car out of the race if it starts to slide.
Kanaan, Rice, Manning, Dixon, Castro, Neves. Jerry Punch, what are they thinking?
Well, Paul, a bit of a quandary for both Buddy Rice and Tony Kanaan with regard to the fuel mileage. Let's check in with Kim Green first here in the Tony Kanaan pits. Kim, a lot of calculating being done here. How close is it going to be for you guys on fuel?
Well, I think hopefully it's close for everybody. I'm a bit ashamed about that because we've got a great car. I'd like to just race to the finish, but it's very, very close. We've got to keep working hard out there.
I heard an engineer a moment ago say, can we run lap 200 on fumes? Is it going to be that close?
It could be. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll be trying.
Tony Kanaan could be very close. The only consolation is that these guys here believe that Buddy Rice will be a lap shorter on fuel than they are. It could be very close to the checkered flag.
Well, everybody on the lead lap, and that takes us all the way down through Scott Sharp, currently in 12. When they get to the checkered flag, will be 42 laps out from their last fill. Now, a large portion of those have actually been carrying the car to 41, 42 laps. So fumes just may be the answer.
Now for the Rahal Letterman team, if Buddy Rice wins today, it'll be the first time that the Rahal Letterman team will win here as a team owner. Bobby Rahal won here 3 times as a driver, but I think that back about 1988, wasn't it Kenny Brack and Max Pappas touched when we're running 1-2, knocked each other out? Maybe it's good that both Vitor Meira and Buddy Rice are not around each other today.
Well, let's go back a little more recently than that, Jack, to Nashville.
Yeah, this isn't the first time that Buddy Rice has run second to an Andretti green car. In fact, the red and white car in front in Nashville on July 17th, That was Dan Weldon. They locked horns when Buddy Rice was in second. Tempers flared. Both drivers were quite upset about this activity. And I say this is what lit the fuse, not necessarily on a blood feud, but also on the chase for the championship and some of that, not bad-mouthing, but psych job that's going on right now throughout the course of pit road.
Target Chip Ganassi cars have just steadily inched themselves up to the front as we look how the teams have done this year. And Dixon, driving with an injured wrist, is in third. Manning is fourth.
Kevin Savory is one of the co-owners of Andretti Green Racing, and he lost his brother Jim to cancer and pledged to the place where Jim worked in Paris, Illinois, $1,000 for every victory. The guys at the YMCA never thought that at this point that Kevin Savory would have donated in Jim's memory $6,000.
Isn't that great? Kanaan, Rice, Dixon, Manning, Hornish, Castroneves. So Andretti Green Racing, Ray Hall Letterman Racing, Target Chip Ganassi Racing, and Penske Racing all right up here at the front.
You know, two teammates that are running so close right now, the Target Chip Ganassi cars, the one of Dixon and the 10 of Manning that you see right there. And I'll tell you something, those guys have bumped into each other once today, and they're running so close. You know, they might want to run in line here and start to move themselves up a little bit, because side by side's not too quick.
Hornish goes to the high side of the two Target Chip Ganassi cars.
And let's not forget, a tough 7 days for Target Chip Ganassi. They lost those cars, and Scott Dixon with the injury didn't start at Milwaukee. Somebody said it was probably about $1 million worth of damage, but they went to work, and they're out there running up front.
It's beginning to get pretty tense out there. 185 laps complete, 15 to go. And when they get to the backstretch, you watch them all look for racing room.
This is a point the driver doesn't want to give up any positions, guys. The only thing you want to do is make one position at a time, move forward. If you give something up, you know you may not get it back. They're going to fight for every inch on the racetrack now.
Yeah, but right now, the one thing you want to make is fuel mileage. We know that these guys are sitting on a time bomb.
That 17 car, the blue and white on the outside, is Vitor Mira. He's doing some pretty drastic driving, trying to get back to the front. Currently 7. Jamie Little.
Scott Dixon has definitely had an up and down day, and ironically enough, he started third and he's in third right now. I asked the crew, they said he hasn't mentioned his hand one time. He's been very quiet on the radio, and they said both he and Darren Manning are perfect on fuel to the end of the race.
He's a quiet, almost shy guy. New Zealander, Scott Dixon, talks with that steering wheel. Rice now beginning to take a look and worry the leader. And at this point, 13 to go, anyone in the top 10 could still get there.
Well, it's going to come down to fuel that we've talked about before. If the Honda-powered cars, which are 1 and 2 right now, Kanaan and Rice, have to come in for pit, and the Toyota cars are good on fuel, like we've just heard, then possibly this is going to be a Toyota race. But right now, if you're Tony Kanaan, you're staying on the low side, you're keeping your foot on the gas, and you're trying to make sure that you can finish the race.
Here's Jack Arut's pick. Koski Matsura has to change the nose on his car.
Hey guys, Tony Kanaan is slowing down a little bit here. According to the team, according to Buddy Rice, his lap times, and they realize that Kanaan has to slow down to be able to make it. The problem is Rice really can't take advantage of it because calculations here might make Rice a lap and a half to 2 laps shy. But Scott Rimke a moment ago said, we have no choice. We got to roll the dice and go for it. We may not make it, but we're going to try.
Very close between Rice and Kanaan as Rice tries to force the issue. They were 213 miles an hour last time by.
What's happening here when he talks about Kanaan saving fuel? He's turned the fuel system down in his car. The engine's running a little bit leaner. Using a little less fuel does not make as much horsepower. But he knows that if he lets Rice go by and a yellow comes out and they get a restart, very tough to pass.
Rice had the nose ahead at the line, took the lead with 10 to go. And now takes it more definitively.
Yeah, but if Scott Dixon's team has told the truth to Jamie Little, then the guy in 4th place, check that, in 3rd place, Scott Dixon is going to be the guy that's got enough fuel to go the distance. We might see 3rd be 1st at the end of this thing.
Scott, your favorite position, assuming you have fuel, where do you want to be right now?
Well, if you have fuel, then you want to say maybe you're the guy that's in second that gets that drafting advantage, and especially Tony Kanaan has looked so strong. But I said earlier, only Rice knows what he had inside of his car. See now while he's past Kanaan, he's on the low side. He's going to make Kanaan go around the high side if Kanaan can do it. Right now, if Rice cannot make it, he's got to hope for a yellow.
Rice 213 miles an hour last time around, 8 to go.
Fellas, moments ago, Dan Weldon talked to his chief man, Tony Kottman. Kottman told him he needs 2.8 miles a gallon to get to the finish line. He says, can we make it? He says, well, all we can do is hope for a yellow because everyone else is in the same boat as Dan Weldon, who's currently sitting in 4th place.
Well, Bobby Rahal, the owner of the car that's in the front here right now, has been in this position before back in kart days at Michigan when Max Pappas was leading only to run out of fuel.
Which, by the way, turned out to the benefit of Tony Kanaan, who won his first big open wheel race. Rice is pulling away. He's now 4/10 ahead of Tony Kanaan.
But the speeds have slowed down,
Pace
guys. They were
dropping.
214. They're now running 212 to 210 miles an hour.
Points based on the position that they run right now. We're in round 10 of the 16-round series. So those points are still, while important, they haven't really formed up yet.
Now as Manning's looking to go around Hornish, and you see that Dixon is sort of fallen off. Has Dixon decided that nobody else can make it on fuel and he's throttled back, and he might just take the opportunity to sit back and see if he can actually make it to the end.
Guys, updated calculations here in the Buddy Rice pit. A moment ago, the team looked around and said, based on the numbers, they think they can make it to turn 4, headed for the checkered flag, and then it's probably going to cough and sputter. At 200 yards between turn 4 and the checkered flag could be awfully tough if Kanaan is close.
Well, and that'll make all the difference in the world if Kanaan is close. Unless, of course, Kanaan, also with a Honda, has a similar problem. Remember, they are an identical sequencer. They are both, assuming the engines are burning the fuel at the same rate, which is not always a great assumption. I mean, there's a lot that they can do in the cockpit to change that, and the engines are inherently slightly different. 4 to go now. Buddy Rice, the 15 car, the Indianapolis 500 champion, is leading, and leading for the first time today over the pole sitter Tony Kanaan, who has been the powerhouse throughout this race. Kanaan is number 11. The 15 car is Rice.
You remember drivers pushing it to the limit. Remember 2 years ago at Nazareth, Pennsylvania, Gilles DeFerrin started to run out of fuel. Scott Sharp took advantage with 2 turns left to go, ended up winning the race.
Well, look, they can drive them anywhere. And that's Hornish they were just coming around.
He also looks like he's flowing off the pace.
That's a battle for third there. All of them.
Throw it in the air. What is it going to be?
Schechter, of course, is now 3 laps behind the race. So while he's running with them, he's not part of that battle. And the yellow Pennzoil Panther number 4. Oh, we got a piece, another tuck. Some part went flying there. 2 to go.
Definitely some debris on the track back there in 4. Some wings came off some cars. Tony
Kanaan pushes alongside Rice. They're going to go side by side into 3. And it'll be the white flag next time around. The question mark is the fuel tank of both of those cars.
See all the debris they just ran over? A lot of stuff going in the air, coming off the tires.
And 1 lap to go. Will Buddy Rice repeat his victory at Indianapolis? Tony Kanaan chooses the high line. Rice leads him onto the backstretch. The engine's gulping fuel. Now they head for the final 2 turns. Tony Kanaan makes a move to the outside. It looks like they're going to run for the line with no problem. And Buddy Rice leads Tony Kanaan to the line and takes the win, the 3rd win of his career. And look at that battle as Dan Weldon comes screaming forward and picks up third place, followed by Hornet, Mira, Herta, Dixon, Bell, Sharp, and Elio Castro Neves. Rahal Letterman has done it again. And Michael Andretti is wondering how you lead so many laps and not take the win.
We've seen that look on Michael's face so many times this year, especially at Indianapolis, just the disappointment, looking and saying a race that we led for so many laps today, thought we had it in the bag, but as I mentioned before, as Rice looks like he's slowing down, maybe even running out of fuel, only Buddy Rice really knew inside that cockpit what type of car he had to the end.
And remember at the start of the show, I said a psych job is underway. You got the competition on the racetrack, but for Rahal Letterman right now, this is a psych out on Andretti Green. They let Kanaan lead all that time. And look who came home to victory lane.
Buddy Rice, the winner, is going to be one of the guys that heads out to the X Games next week. Of course, you'll have coverage on ABC and the ESPN network.
Yeah, he brought one of his buddies from the X Games, Christopher Fillmore, here today. He's that supermoto rider. And now then he's going to return the favor to go with Christopher to the X Games. Got enough fuel to do some donuts?
Apparently.
This is rubbing your nose.
Oh, isn't it?
This is saying Andretti Green, what fuel mileage? We got enough to celebrate.
The fourth fastest race in IRL history, averaging 182.216 miles an hour for the 400-mile distance. And Buddy Rice takes the win. And he's going to go one more lap. Let's just rub it a little more, huh? Oh. Rice, Kanaan, Weldon, Hornish, Mira, the top 5 unofficially. When we come back, we'll be talking with most of these participants. Right now, it's still coverage of the IRL IndyCar Series. The Michigan Indy 400 has run. It's the 4th fastest IRL race in history. And there are your results. A great run by Elio Castro Neves, and all it netted him was a 10th. And Dario Franchitti, last week's winner, out prematurely with some form of an engine problem. But the winner, Buddy Rice, despite the dominance in the race of Tony Kanaan. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Well, Paul, Buddy Rice has climbed out of the machine here, the Pioneer Argent Mortgage machine. And Buddy, congratulations on win number 3. The fuel mileage, though, was very, very close, we're told.
Yeah, it's always close. You know, we're running it fast, and we want to make sure we didn't have the same thing happen to us at Texas. So we are going to try and go on and control the pace. And Tony was out there and was running good, and obviously he was thinking the same thing we were. So it just worked out really well today.
He dominated all day. How about the power and the efforts you guys showed in the last 30 or 40 laps?
I told Todd Bullen wait till the end of the race. After yesterday's practice, I said we don't need to show everything until we need to bring it all out, and we saved it for the last 20 laps.
When he made the move with a couple of laps to go, were you concerned at all about being able to hold him off?
No, I wasn't concerned at all. I think, I mean, he's been very strong, but I saw how well where his car was working at and just sat and watched, and I didn't think he could do it on the high side. We've been running there all day, so we knew where we needed to be when we needed to do it.
Your 3rd win, you gained some valuable points in that chase for the championship. This battle is far from over, right?
It's far from over. We're going to take this to the end and bring that championship home to Rahal Letterman.
Buddy Rice in victory lane here at Michigan for the 3rd time this year. Let's check in with Jamie.
Well, we started off the day talking about the Target Chip Ganassi team and what a finish it was for you guys. It was looking like you or Darren Manning were going to end up on the podium there until the last 2 laps. What happened, Scott?
I don't know. We had a pretty decent car that whole stint, and then we had to try and save a little bit of fuel because we were running pretty close. But I think Schechter got out of it, and I got stuck on the inside. Everybody went around the outside, and me and Darren got into it a little, coming off 4. It was just a bad 2 laps.
I know you guys got a little more power from Toyota. Does that give you a little momentum going into our next race?
I think it definitely helps. You know, the guys did a great job today at Team Target. And Toyota definitely picked it up. So it's good to see.
And last question, is the hand okay?
Yeah, not too bad. It's fairly decent, just aches a lot.
Will you have surgery on Tuesday?
We'll see. I don't know how it is yet, but hopefully we don't have to.
All right, they're going to go get some x-rays and find out if they will do surgery. And if they do, guys, he will be back to race.
Yeah, that piece of surgery is pretty neat, and they get him back. They've got 2 weeks until they race at Kentucky. Michael Andretti, the team owner, and his son, Marco. He comes down to talk with Brian Herta. We're, of course, looking for an interview from Tony Kanaan, but you saw him stomping down the pits, not at all happy with the finish of this race after being the dominant power for so long.
Still, Paul, he leads in the points chase. He's got a 57-point margin over Buddy Rice, but I don't know, trying to translate what Buddy Rice was saying there in Victory Lane. A little bit of cockiness there, a little bit of that X Games attitude, like, yep, I'm going to get him by Texas, October 17th.
And what you said, the whole mind game aspect.
You know, there's certainly a war going between the teams, as you say, but there's also that driver thing that you're talking about, Jack, you know, and living it before, right now, that is the message identical to what he's sending. Kanaan knows that he dominated today, expected to win, and didn't. That's going to sit with him for the next 2 weeks until we get to Kentucky.
Celebration down in the winner's circle at Michigan International Speedway. Sam Hornish came in fourth place, but was in the fight most of the way, Jerry Punch.
And Sam Hornish has indeed climbed out of the Marlboro Team Penske effort here. And Sam, I guess you guys look to have a pretty good day. Toyota showed up with a little more horsepower than anticipated here for Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, we had a heck of a race car today. The car handled real well. Just weren't there when we needed it to be. We just tried to stay in the draft, and we were trying to do that, and we got kind of split up from Tony and Buddy there right at the end, or I think we would have been able to follow them, right to a third place, and had to get back there and start mixing it up with everybody else. It was a tough battle out there today, but I'm glad that the Marlboro Team Penske guys did such a great job for me in the pits. We were able to pick up spots every time we stopped, and the tires were always there. Just really Firestone gives us some really competitive tires. Everybody's got the same thing, and it makes sure that makes it a little bit hard to get an advantage sometimes, but I'm really happy with how things went today. Obviously wish you could win, but if you can't do that, you just want to keep beating the guys that have the same product that you're running.
Sam Hornish, a two-time champion, the top Toyota in the field today. Paul?
Yeah, Tony Kanaan is screaming hot. I mean, we were looking for him for an interview. Look at this. This was just a few seconds ago. Just hopped on his motorbike and headed out of the coach area. We'll try to get better definition on that when we come back in our post-race coverage of the Indy 400. Well, today's Indy 400 at Michigan, the action began with the first lap, but got intense by lap 36. Thomas Scheckter came into the pits, and one of his crewmen down. The report is that all crewmen involved in incidents today are okay.
Never have I seen so many pit incidents before, Paul. There has to be some rule changes for the next event.
And here was the key lap in the whole run, lap 124. First of all, those guys get together, and then Franchitti has an engine to go. Then Fernandez tags Mira coming out of the pits and pushes Mira into Dan Weldon and his crew.
Then again, Adrian Fernandez and the red and green car involved in another pit miscue.
And what was perhaps most amazing at all at this blistering fast race, Buddy Rice leads the field to the checkered flag in a race that had no incidents on the race course. 400, well, let me correct that. Nobody got the wall. A lot of people got each other. The fans got their money's worth today. Jamie Little.
Well, guys, I'm happy to report that all three crew members so far, they say nothing is wrong. They're all okay. Steve Namasnack, say that word all day long. He's still in the medical center here at the track, and Dr. Shai is going to check him out, and he might have to go to the hospital for further x-rays, but right now they've got ice on him, and he says he's all right. So that's all good news considering what happened today.
No problem with that, Jamie. That's why we all call him Sack, as a matter of fact. Jamie's on her way to the X Games, as am I, for next week, and you'll see coverage on ABC and the ESPN as well. The crowd here today, Scott, they really got their money's worth.
Always a great show going on here, Paul, because the track is so exciting to drive, exciting for the spectators to watch. Impressive weekend, I think, not only by Honda, but you look at where Toyota's come up from and Chevrolet. I look for those guys to be stronger going into Kentucky. I think this series is going to get even stronger as we go through the next few races.
But, Scott, there's a week off, and for guys like Tony Kanaan and Andretti Green Racing, the sting of this loss is going to last a lot longer. Normally, if you've got another race, you can put it behind you, the 24-hour rule. Now they're going to have to listen and read about it for an off weekend.
Yeah, they're going to have a long time to seethe in that one. Buddy's 3 wins all this year, and all in long-distance races. Indy, scheduled for 500, ran 450. Kansas, 300 miles. And, of course, Michigan here 400 miles, and it heats up that battle for the championship. It's going to go to Texas, but in 2 weeks, Texas being the final race of the season, we're at Kentucky Speedway. Jack?